All right. Good afternoon, and thank you for attending Intentionally's Friends Book Club today, coming to you live from Intentionally Studios outside of Philadelphia. Our special guest, who I'm so excited to have here today with us, Nicole Casperson, author of Fintech Feminists, CEO of Fintech is Femme. And this book that we're going to be discussing today is available on Amazon and Audible. Before introducing Nicole, we're going to go over a few housekeeping items. To introduce myself, my name is Ashley Taylor. I'm an account manager here at Intentionally and today's host. A big shout out, of course, to Kelly Waltrich and Tina Powell for just being amazing in creating this platform of Intentionally, but also this book club of bringing like-minded people together in the financial space. Please ensure that you subscribe outside of this to Intentionally's website to get the latest updates on all of our upcoming book club meetings and guests. I'm going to put the link in the bio very quickly so that you have access to all of this information, as well as Nicole's LinkedIn, Amazon link to the book. And if you haven't already connected with Nicole, do so today. All right. Let me just drop this here for all of you so you have this. Nice to see everyone. Hi, Tina. Hopefully you get these links. If not, I can drop them in after. All right, just a few more things to keep it going. The book club is being recorded. It will be available to all participants who join the book club and registered for this event. We will also be sharing this via YouTube. So if you're not subscribed to Intentionally on YouTube, do so today as well. A nice little addition that we'll have, as always, we'll randomly pick a winner for an Amazon $50 gift card and a free copy of Nicole's book club. If you're an author or would like to recommend an author to have for another book club episode here at Intentionally, email us at bookclub@growintentionally.com. And lastly, we appreciate your time and attention today. Understand that this program is educational and offers no financial advice specific to your circumstances. Please consult with a registered financial advisor. Now, for a woman who needs no introduction, but I'll give her one anyway, Nicole Casperson, I'm so excited to have you here with us today.
Aw, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course, of course. So we're just going to go through her bio. If you don't know, you will know now. Nicole is a journalist, a podcast host, and a founder of Fintech is Femme, a media company driving equity and diversity in fintech. A trusted industry voice, she shares insights through her widely read newsletter and speaking engagements. And from what I know, you publish your newsletter twice a week, right?
Yes,
Which is
yes, I do.
kudos to you. Okay, let me just continue on with some of the things that Nicole has done over the last 3 years of being an entrepreneur as well. She has grown her Fintech is Femme to 50,000 plus subscribers and did that in under a year. She's hosted sold out events in New York and San Francisco, bringing together 300 plus female fintech founders. Spoke at major industry events in Amsterdam and Las Vegas. And this year, in April, she'll be hosting her second annual Fintech is Femme Summit. Super excited in New York. Nicole also teaches fintech financial management at Parsons School of Design and contributes to Forbes, covering gender equity, finance, and technology. Recognized as a top inspiring female in fintech, a top financial Twitter influencer, and a Fintech Nexus DEI Trailblazer Award finalist. Nicole, with all that being said, we are so happy to have you here today.
Ashley, thank you so much. And fun fact for listeners out there, Tina Powell, she
Ugh,
is first of all, she is her. And then if you don't know, she actually bought the first ticket to the first Fintech is Femme event I ever hosted. So she's got a special place in the Fintech is Femme history books for me and in our hearts. So as she should.
as she should. I agree. Honestly, this could turn into a How Much I Love Tina podcast. There's like an internal joke about me being her number one fan. She believes in you before you believe in yourself and just has a vision beyond words can ever explain.
Look, Ashley, that's a catchy podcast name, so think about keeping that, right? How much I love Tina. Like it has like a there's a jingle or something there.
I
Always
agree.
thinking about content.
I agree. All right. So, just to kick us off today, I'm going to launch our first polling question. What do you think is the most significant barrier for women in fintech today? And while everyone answers that poll, I'm going to just start off with asking you, Nicole, what brought you first and foremost, what brought you to write this book? Because a lot of people can go their whole entire career as a minority, as a woman, and not acknowledge these types of things. And you made it your whole platform. So what drove this?
Oh, so many things. How much time do we have?
An
Well,
hour.
let's go. So fundamentally, my background is a journalist, right? And so I'm ultimately a storyteller. And I believe there's really nothing more powerful than the stories that we tell each other to tell ourselves, right? That ultimately narrative drives wallets, it drives money, it drives deal flow. Over the years, as a reporter and editor, sitting behind the scenes in newsrooms of a number of different trade publications, I've covered housing, mortgages, auto finance, wealth management, financial advice, investments. I saw kind of the direct correlation for why women are fed such false narratives around money, business, and finance. Women are 50% of the population, but only represented a quarter of the time in media and their as their stories, right? And by that I mean women as front page news in newspapers, digital media, radio, television, you name it. And so when you don't see our stories represented properly and told by someone like me who fundamentally understands our stories, then I saw the direct correlation for the lack of representation we have. Um, yes, we have funding issues. Yes, we have all of the things. But for me as a storyteller, I felt like I could use my pen as a way to show the true story of what's actually going on in fintech and financial services. And that's what you'll see in my book. The reality is that I am never bored. I have a massive Rolodex of incredibly powerful, fabulous, brilliant, smart women who are building in fintech, whether they're founders, CEOs, investors, operators. And they are here, and women have been the ones to build the legacy and rails of financial services, of banking, of fintech since the very beginning. The first coder in all existence was a woman named Ada Lovelace, right? Cobble, the coding that banking platforms are living on today, was invented because of Grace Hopper. So that's a lot of the inspiration, is just we were fed these stories that women don't belong here, and that's just not true. So I wrote a whole book about why that just isn't true.
And I love it. Before we even started, I was just gushing about how excited I was to meet you because I've been telling all my friends, like, you need to read this book because I
Oh,
feel like
thank you.
it's just so timely and so important. I'm going to end the poll now and push this to start. So, what we're seeing is that, the options were a lack of funding and investment by their counterparts, limited representation in leadership, workplace culture bias, lack of mentorship, and networking opportunities. And what we're seeing that people selected the most was limited representation in leadership. So sharing these results to everyone. And that's like super important that when I was reading through your book, this brings us to our next question. The one thing that you discussed was the scarcity mindset. And
Mm-hmm.
that just really rang home for me because I feel like even starting as a child in elementary school, there was only one woman or one minority that, created competition amongst us on the
Yeah.
playground and has like led us right through our careers. So, moving into that, how do you think the industry plays with that idea of scarcity mindset? Do you feel like the industry in fintech or financial services really pushes that forward, or do you feel like they try to, you know, push for diversity?
Well, what an interesting topic in this day and age. Look, I think yes, there's a lack of representation in leadership if you're not looking or paying attention, right? Obviously, there's the stats, obviously, there's the numbers out there. But if there's something that I've learned from the incredible women that I profiled in my book, it's that if you don't see the mentor or the person that you want to aspire to be, maybe in your immediate organization or where you're working today, then go find her because she is out there. There are a number of women out there that can inspire you, that can mentor you, and there's just no shortage of that. And it's really kind of on us to be the ones to say, you know what, I'm gonna when I meet an incredible woman that like makes me feel like I can soar, that makes me feel like I can do anything, like the women in my book, keep them close, you know, build a real relationship with them. They can feel almost like too powerful to touch, but that is not the case at all. In fact, most of them are so hungry to give back. They just need you to give them that version of what it is that you need. So, all's to say is scarcity mindset is incredibly real. It is ingrained in us through societal messages, through right the narrative that we always see in finance. You know, how many times do I have to see the story of there's not enough women in finance or there's not enough funding to women, right? Obviously, A is a great lack of funding and investment by their counterparts is also a great response to that question. Um, choose to look at things differently. And I know that sounds like a little woo woo and uh, eh, but just because I see things differently, there's literal science behind the ability to change your mindset into abundance, into seeing and being and deciding that you are going to be the multiplier effect that creates waves, right? It's you know the popular saying that the most powerful change happens in small groups in the everyday in if you remember from Lule de Messe's section, it's eating the elephant one bite at a time, right? It's finishing the dish on your plate right in front of you. That's what makes change happens. That's what moves you out of scarcity and into abundance is surrounding and looking, right? It might take a little bit more intentionality because it feels like you're the only, and you probably are, and could be the only in the room at your organization. Look outside, right? Diversify that feed, that social media feed, right? Like
Yeah.
diversify the events you're going to. Um, Literally opt in to change your environment entirely because if you don't then your environment is going to shape you if you're only seeing men around and always hanging around you know men and people that aren't like you or have your shared experience and you're constantly going to keep creating that and seeing that scarcity. So I choose to instead put myself in rooms that are filled with incredibly powerful women so I continue to create that abundance around me of powerful women who have no problem lifting me up and helping me. And I want to create more of that for others too.
Yeah, and I think you are, right? Like
Yeah.
I think that even by creating a book like this, you're targeting a group of people who feel unseen at times, right? And that includes myself as a woman of color. And so reading this timeliness of it all, I really felt like you were just kind of energizing me again in a time where I was kind of feeling like destitute in a way because of all of the
Yeah.
changes. And representation at the core is what matters the most, even when it comes to, we talk about children having books about their hair or their freckles or whatever it might be. Those types of things help elevate people and to another level as they go through their life. So couldn't agree
Mm-hmm.
more.
To your point, Ashley, I would add there is nothing more powerful than being seen, right? I would
Mm.
say for a more personal element of that, as a mixed Asian American woman, it who also grew up in the South, it was um I spent a lot of my upbringing searching for someone to make me feel seen, right? Like searching for that story, searching, which could be a lot of that childhood experience that led me to write my book and doing what I'm doing. But so there's nothing more powerful than making people feel seen. And if you're not feeling it for yourself, like I said, go find that woman out there or person out there that will make you feel that because she's out there and then get close to her, you know, whatever that takes, whether it's following her on social or writing about her like I did, or just getting closer to those kinds of people so you create that environment around you.
I agree that, and I mean that brings us to one of the other key themes in your book, mentorship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that when we're highlighting people, when it comes to, well, let's take a step back. So when it comes, let's talk about funding first, and then let's lean into mentorship because
Right.
I feel like that was even within itself, right? Because if you're putting yourselves in these rooms and you're engaging with these people, how can we further extend that into making your vision come to life. And so one of the things that I loved about your book was that you highlighted like the difference in like when women are, fundraising for Series A or B or whatever it might be, the difficulties that they face, even if they accomplish that funding from underrepresented groups or women. Like
Hmm.
it's the continuous cycle of us always having to be on our feet. So my question for you right now is, do you think that when it comes to, venture capital, when women are and minorities are breaking through where we are now in the state of the world, do you think that the glass ceiling will be shattered either from within, or do you think more so alongside?
Mm. It's going to be that mix of both, right?
Mhm.
It's to use my a great Wicked reference.
Yes.
I was great, good. We all resonate. Great.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think about it all the time because who doesn't? Um, am I Elphaba or am I Glinda? And who is necessarily right or wrong? And sometimes when I'm thinking about that metaphor, I come down to that mix of both. It's a balance of both because even with Fintech is Femme, I'm still very much working within a system that is fundamentally not sound, right? Uh, but if there's something that I've learned, my cat is, of course, in
Okay.
this conversation as well. If there's something that I've learned, it's that there's nothing more powerful than your ability to make change happen in those small bites in those small rooms, like I said before. So you have to find your unique way of doing that. And the best way to do that is to start looking within in what you can fundamentally maybe pinpoint as your purpose, right? So, because right now, given the state of what's going on, given and I'll just go ahead and like address the elephant in the room that the attacks on DEI right now are sheer projection of what's actually going on, which is a lot of beta energy from a lot of just men that are obsessed with power and hoarding that power. But the reason why they're attacking us is because they know how powerful we actually are. They know we make more money. They know that women are more college educated, that we're buying homes faster, that we're capable of raising less money, like I mentioned in my book, right? But yet outpacing investments by any of our male counterparts. Uh, that's what we need to hang on to, and that the reaction that is wanted of us is to play small, is
Yeah.
to right, is to hide, is to oh my gosh, they've made DEI scary. Let me run away from it. But instead, what I've learned is, oh no, you double down. Like if whatever that is that you believe in, whatever that purpose is, whatever that thing you want to go for, right? I chose women in fintech. I will double down on my audience and my niche every single time without fail. It is the foundation that I stand on, and I will not like there's nothing Elon Musk or any of these, oligarchs can say to change my fundamental belief in that. And that's a real leader, and that's where real leadership comes from, is someone that whose values are unwavering despite what's going on in our worlds, politically, economically. And so find your purpose, double down on it. The easy way is to make yourself feel good for everyone. Do not do that. That is not how success happens from what I've seen from my experience. Um, it's scarier and riskier to double down on your fundamental beliefs, but it's also the only way that you're going to find the right audience, the right clients for your business, and connect with the right environment, right, for you. So, kind of to your question around the funding element, I think Sally said it really well, and Sally Krawcheck said it really well. Her whole world changed when she started reaching out to people who had a fundamental belief that women are the key to unlocking a better financial future, as she did, instead of chasing people that had money but don't actually believe in the same values as her. Once you start reaching out to people with actual values like yours, the conversations are much faster, the deal flow happens a lot quicker, the business gets done
And the
faster.
the ecosystem changes, right? Like it goes
Yes.
back to what you're saying, like being in these rooms with people who are a representation of you and have the same values. I agree with you. It's always so hard for me not to mention this, but I teach yoga. And this is always
Hell yeah.
something, this is always something that I bring up. And a key thing that I've been like mentioning in my classes is that you are not your circumstances of today or tomorrow. They are just a milestone and how your river will flow later. And because it's important to understand like these intricate parts of time that do represent your journey and do represent why you lead here. That's another, not to like gush about you again, but this is another reason why I love your book is because you literally are standing on business. And that's how I kept describing it to my friends. I was like, no, every chapter, more and more, she's standing on business and not changing because of the course of what people are trying to. I'm sure people have tried to tell you not to as you start your book offering when you were a
Oh yeah.
journalist. Yeah, when you were a reporter. Yeah.
Oh
So,
yeah. I've been told you saw the opening line of the book. I have
yeah.
mulled over if that should be the opening line of the book for obviously forever. And many a nights. And but it was so easy. It actually ended up being quite clear, you know. It was even talking to like my partner about it, it was just like, duh, you know. Uh that was really that moment. I feel like everyone kind of has like a story that
Yeah.
changes them. That really was that moment. Whether that old editor of mine knows it or not, by the way, if you haven't read the book yet, the opening line is you can cover women or you can cover fintech, but you can't do both. And I talk about how really that it's crazy how that just like hit me like a gut punch. Like it made I didn't understand why he thought those categories needed to be separate. I could get there. I could understand ultimately what he's saying, but whether he
Yeah.
realizes it or not, he's fundamentally telling me that that covering women is a separate beat from covering fintech. And I'm not sure why that would ever be the case. But it's a part of the inspiration as well was I there's no reason why women and people of color, our stories should be shelved for a diversity section of a paper, of news, of the spotlight, when we're the ones building more successful companies, when we're the ones doing it with less fraud, when we're the ones doing it with less money, when we're the ones giving investors a higher return per their dollar, when we're it sounds like everyone should be listening to us and how we do businesses. I like what you said, Ashley. I'm using that, by the way. Every chapter we stand on business. If you want to just write that in my Amazon review, you could just we stand on business. Yeah, but like
You
I'm trying
do.
to figure out why in and I call out the VC space because and the investor space in the book because I think I maybe even said it twice. Anyway, but it's where what is insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting different results. I don't under we keep talking about the media likes to say women only receive 2% of venture capital funding, blah blah blah. Like, yes, that's true. Let's flip that narrative a bit on its head and realize the fact that we give 98% of venture capital dollars to one type of founder and we see our economy implode every like 10 years or so.
Yeah, literally.
That's a weird pattern, right? And I explain that pattern in chapter 1 as well of the book, right? In seeing how the economy changes every single time we don't have women in leadership roles. So,
There you go.
anyways,
And the one thing before we walk away from this, I want to say that
yeah.
how you started the book was about what your boss or additional reporter that you're working alongside with stated that. And then towards the end of the book, you bring up a story about like almost a woman being pessimistic about women again representing ourselves and talk.
Yes.
And it's so interesting the contrast because I love at the end of the book how you like wrap that up and say like I could be like this, but I'm choosing to be like this. So it's that active decision of being true to self. And that is just something that can't be taught. So
Oh my gosh. Ashley, you should you go do my like book tours? I think you might be better at describing my book. But no, thank you for being so thoughtful. It's truly, truly amazing. I agree. So I did Look at you. Not no one else is. I'm sorry, Ashley. No one else has noticed that. I'm like such a nerd, of course, with my own book. I've put all these like little bits and like eggs or Easter egg, if you will, or like
Yeah.
if you know, you knows kind of thing. So way to notice that I did that on purpose, right? Like closed it out because that had actually happened to me. The backstory of that is I had already turned in the manuscript and I was working on my edits. And of course, I'm not supposed to put any additional stories in my edits, but I definitely did. And love you, Wiley, for dealing with me. Um, but I threw that story in because I literally just gotten off the plane from this moment on stage of a woman who literally runs a women founded investment platform. And she like on stage kept talking about how women need have a confidence issue and how even though she's in a female focused investment company that she still has to invest in male founders to make sure her returns are right. And I was like, sounds like you're doing the math wrong then, because and I like had to, hold it together, not completely freak out at her on stage. But I did address her. Don't get me wrong. I was like, ooh, from my experience and based on the data that I have, everything you're saying is totally not the case, but moving on. And then I just moved on for the conversation. But that's exactly right. You choose, right? And I know that that's one of those things of like that the world is going the direction it is in. The way that our universe for us doesn't is that choice, right? Am I going to choose to succumb to the BS that they want us to, or am I going to choose this other path? And that's kind of where I leave you, but I give you, 40 different pathways to follow in those footsteps. And that's the choice we all have to make, right?
Agreed. Agreed. All right. So research shows, as we're talking about, and your book, I mean, I was like, I have like notes, like if you saw the size, there's just like little post-its everywhere, but you have so
Amazing.
many stats in there, like I couldn't even keep up. And so there's definitely like have to be a reread of this all. But as you know, it shows that innovation drives with diversity, but we don't see it, right? Even when we talk about Sally Krawcheck and building Elvest, like she is revolutionary not only for the business that she's creating, but also for having like anti-racist platform that are capitalizing on all rather
Mm-hmm.
than one subgroup or one majority group. Um, what do you think, and how do you think companies will benefit with increased diversity? And what steps do you think that people need to take to make real capital REAL change for fintech to move forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's the easy answer is invest in women, right? At the end and invest in people of color. You really want to make some solid innovation and outsized returns, invest in Black women, period. The one of the women in my book who Angel Rich,
Hmm.
she's actually she's doing the opening fireside chat with me at my leadership summit in New York on April 23. But she actually just raised 100 million Series B for Credit Rich, which is her fintech company. It's very financial education centric. She really created it with her community in mind, and for people like her, for the Black community that's been so underserved by financial services. Um, Her company's now valued at $1 billion. She's uh she's the first Black woman owned neobank. She has got massive partnerships with Visa and Experian, and the first Black woman to do those types of things. And but I bring her up because she has the reason why it's so important to invest in women like Angel and Sally and all the women in my book is because they are the ones who fundamentally understand the experiences, the challenges, the demographics that financial services is dying to get in front of. You're never going to be able to serve those demographics properly if you don't have women with those experiences in the room making decisions. There's a pretty saucy line in my book that I didn't I pulled it from a House Financial Services Committee hearing, um, where someone said that if you don't, whether you realize it or not, if you are creating a fintech product that is meant to serve the underserved and you don't have someone from that community in your leadership, then really that's financial manipulation because you're not, and that's really predatory because then how are you ever going to truly see what that demographic and group needs? Innovation lives in diversity, it dies in silos. That's like your easy answer to the question. At the end of the day, I could list off and rattle off a million stats for why diversity increases bottom line. Um, they're all in the book, but I think that the data points that we see in terms of representations, in terms of funding, people don't really care about those stats because if they did, we'd have a different stat, right? 2% would be a lot different. We wouldn't have, what is it now? Is it like 8 to 10-ish% of, women
Yeah.
CEOs in Fortune 500, right? Like those numbers would be wildly different if people actually cared about the data. What they care about is feelings.
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
people what people yeah. Yeah, no, really.
Yeah.
Like especially
Seriously.
I've learned that even as an entrepreneur, and what people care about is working with people they like. What people care about is their own self-interest in their own communities. Cool. Well, I can do that. Like I can be more interested in making sure that my community is uplifted, that the people that I want to uplift are uplifted. If I can create a cycle where I'm making sure the people I care about, women and people of color and people like myself and women entrepreneurs in finance and fintech are getting the support, the amplification, the media coverage they need, then I create a new cycle where that's what more people see every single day instead of what they're typically seeing in their office. So they're seeing something completely different and capable of telling themselves a new story, a story that they are quite literally written into. So that's really how you can move the needle, right? Is creating new systems and patterns. You have to kind of create them within the structures, and that's weird. But you have a bit more freedom to do that your own way when you're an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
to rewrite your rules. Within a company, I mean, if you're like early in a startup, then obviously you have some leverage there. But if you're at a corporation, I get a lot of questions around like, women that work at larger financial institutions and who have a manager that just won't listen to them, right? No matter what they say, or tells them they answer emails too fast, or weird stuff like that, weird made up stuff. Um, there you have two options. You either organize with others in your company or your organization to showcase that your ideas, your projects, the things you want to put forward are worthy, right, of attention. And if this manager, this higher power still isn't going to listen to you because of who you are, because they can't see past you being a woman or diverse individual, then leave. Then leave. That's like that comes with a lot of privilege. So like, or prepare to leave, figure out how to get out and build your own. Because clearly that institution you're at is missing something, right? Is missing a wide open market opportunity that you could be building for.
Yeah.
That's how I ultimately left traditional media, was because no one was tackling this very specific part of media that apparently I was one of the only ones to see. So why not? It's why not me? Right? The
Yeah.
why not me mentality. If someone else isn't going to do it, why shouldn't it be me? Why shouldn't it be you? It should be. It should be you.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. So how do you think, like, with all of that being said, how do you think we can really, I don't think we can dismantle or disrupt the bro culture,
Mm-hmm.
but like we can, do you think it's possible to really completely dismantle it?
I there's a there's a part of the book I think in the introduction where I write that my I think my aspiration is that the opposite of a patriarchy isn't necessary, or it's not that a matriarchy is the opposite of a patriarchy, right?
Mhm.
We don't want to create the opposite of a patriarchy. We want to create something totally new, right? Like as cute as like the Barbie movie was, and we love, it was missing that, right? It was missing it was like a step, it was like one step up for feminism 101, but not quite advanced
All the
enough
way
yet.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion of that since apparently I'm bringing movies into this discussion about books, um, but it it didn't show the fact that I'm not interested in just creating a woman version of the patriarchy. I'm interested in creating something completely different. So I've met women before who have also written books similar to mine and have said things like, I don't think, like, have gotten your question and have said, I don't think so, or, the pay gap will never be filled or whatever. Frankly, my response to that is that I am way too aspirational for that and way too much of a crazy optimist for that. I'm also personally a bit too young to think that way. Um, so, and I know from some of the women that have come before me, from Maxine Waters, right, who has spent how many years now, right? Like since
She's 86.
1991.
Yeah,
She's
86 still on the
86. She's
steps.
yeah, I am like manifesting my interview with her in the future. Anyways, but I mentioned her in my book because how
Mhm.
could I not, right? Like the amount of women whose shoulders we stand on show us every single day that when you show up every single day and do what you can in the 24 hours we got, or the 8 that you work and then you go to bed, then that can dismantle things. And it has in the past. There's literally history to show us, whether it's the suffrage movement, right, in politics, or changes in culture or whatever it is. We've seen the acts of groups coming together create the ability to dismantle things. Now, you can dismantle something and then it gets rolled back and then comes right back up, as we've seen, but it doesn't mean you stop, right? The consistency. I'd say consistency is the only way to dismantle anything, because it's the number one thing that creates the difference between whether you fail or not. Do you keep going? Do you have it in you to keep going? I have friends, family members, people right now who, after this last election, have decided to opt out, right? They're like, I'm done, I'm opted out, I'm pissed. Sayonara. Like they and
Yeah, they dab.
yeah, they're like, I'm out. And look, that is your choice. I frankly cannot make such a choice. When my like just to share a little, like when the election happened, I obviously was very emotional. For me, as I'm 30, as a young woman who's 30, what made me more emotional was thinking about the Maxine Waters of the world, thinking about my grandma, thinking about the Gloria Steinem, thinking about the women in their 80s plus who might not see the day, right? Who might not see the day that a woman is president, that might not see that dismantle feeling happen.
Yeah,
How dare I, at least is how I see it, how dare I not continue their work? That I can't fathom not doing that personally. Um, how could I not continue the work of Grace Hopper, and the women in financial services, or Sally, right? Or even the ones that are like still here with, with us
yeah,
and closer in proximity. How could I not continue the work of Tina Powell, right? So to the question of will it get dismantled, no one really knows, right? It
yeah,
could never. Can you create your own version and your own system in a new way that can thrive in this crazy world? Absolutely. You absolutely can. It's big enough for both create like both to exist.
agreed.
Um yeah, so I hope we get to the place where it's different, and I think we can. When that will happen, I don't know. But what I do know is that my my kids, I don't have them yet, but my daughter, my granddaughter, the people that I care about in this world know that I was here and know that I did what I can.
I agree.
What's
And I
more? What's more powerful than that?
Exactly. And like, just going off of what you're saying, like the starting line of where we're starting is way further ahead than where they were, right? Like for people who've been like the first wave and second wave first wave feminism in particular, like they were fighting just to be able to open a credit card on their own or get a loan on their
Right.
own or be able to buy a home. And although things are changing and evolving, like we're still starting from a really powerful place where we can like evolve and take it to a next step. So I agree with you. It's not this or that, it's this and that. And I feel like that's the way that
Yeah.
like we need to get our counterparts thinking rather than seeing like you you had an interview that I was watching and you had said something around the lines of if I wouldn't want to just say that like, it's about women, like it's about everyone. And when you said that, I'm like, yeah, like I don't always want to have to say that I'm a woman or I'm a black woman, but it has to be addressed because if we don't address
Mhm.
it, then you negate my difference in lived experience. So it's super, super important. Um,
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. This is so great. I'm like, what questions? Throw them out. Me and Nicole can talk all day.
Yeah, I actually, yeah, there, I see one here. I see one here from Bonnie. That looks good. She said, why do you think some senior women still today are so afraid to mentor those wishing to rise? And I'm like, ooh, interestingly, Bonnie, I haven't had that experience too much. I've actually had a lot of the women in my orbit be very, very excited to help me. However, I also I will add though, I have worked with women in some, I will say working with women can be challenging, right? Like working together. The complexities of women organizing and working together are very real because of that scarcity mindset. So I think with more senior women, I will say I've definitely had my fair share of women who have like warned me about the way I dress or like, be careful of this or don't do too much of that, right? Like, and that's really at the end of the day, anything that someone says to you is just them projecting a certain insecurity or something onto you, right? Like one of theirs onto you. So, um, for the woman who's like, "Oh, be careful, like, yeah, you're just dressing too fashionable." Anyway, you might get noticed too much. And I'm like, good, right?
Yeah.
Good. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I am looking to completely stand out. So what I can do is then actually empower her to think different, right? Empower her. And that has happened where a more senior woman has heard me kind of, challenge her in that notion. And she's like, oh, so I actually think sometimes it's not always that a senior woman mentors a younger individual. A lot of the times it happens the other way. And it's a lot more mutually reinforcing than, I'm a senior woman, I will mentor you, you young person. It actually, for me and my mentors, they tell me that I mentor them too, whether
Yeah.
I realize it or not. So that's, I think, how
You learn from each
I
other.
would see it.
I
Yeah.
sometimes think that people like again, I feel like I'm going to be 34 next month and I feel like where we're starting, we have that ability to not make ourselves small because we don't need to. We still do in some spaces, but not often do we have to as much. And I think that women who are coming from a different era, like they had to make themselves a little bit smaller to
Yes.
survive. And I feel like sometimes that's where it's coming from. Because even conversations with my mom, I'm like, I feel like I need to. She's like, no, you don't have to because I did already. And I'm like, oh, get a
Exactly.
point. Yeah.
No,
Uh,
that's exactly the sentiment because, and like I said earlier, right? That's a great thing to point out, Ashley, because it's like how they were conditioned, right? I mean, the Muriel Siebert literally not having a bathroom to go to at the stock exchange floor, right?
exactly.
There's
Yeah.
a, or I've read Tales of the Boom Boom Room, like the harassment. They're just making
Yeah.
sure we're being safe. Um,
Exactly.
that you cannot like that, of course, but to your point, they went through it so that I could go another way and create a different cycle. So thank you for all the women out there that had to go through that because basically if you're a woman who's been in financial services for like 20 to 30 plus years, thank you for your
Thank you.
service.
No, seriously.
Truly.
And not to call out Kelly and Tina again, but we're just going to call them out because,
Hmm.
they're to what your book explains a Trojan horse in some way, shape, or form, and like leading the brigade and like
Yes.
change and opportunity for other women. And like quick story before we move on is that I remember December, or it was like November of 2023. I had said, I want to work for people that every day I'm inspired by. And that was like my only
Mm.
wish that I kept saying to the universe. Like, I want to work for people I'm inspired by. And then I end up coming to intentionally. And a year and it's like beyond my wildest dreams. Like every year, I know it's going to continue to get better because of the women I'm
Oh.
surrounded by. And the men here are absolutely amazing too. But it's just amazing to be at a woman led company because even when I'm having conversations with my friends, I'm like, not saying like, oh, I'm like, oh, that's not my experience. Like every day I feel like someone is believing in me and we're having conversations and they're telling me no, but it's constructively. So super, super important. So that really brings me to my next question. It's about mentorship. How can we actively create mentorship roles for women and minority leaders in the next stage? And then within that, keep that going, keep that momentum.
Mm. Hmm. Yes. I'd say one of the best ways to attract that mentorship, I think, is to think of it a lot more. I had a great advice from one of my mentors, Asia Bradley, who talked a lot about abundance mindset
Yeah.
in the book and has helped me a lot with that. And I asked her one time, I was like, "How do you kind of figure out? How do you figure it out? Like, how do you figure out who you even want to work with, who you want to mentor you, who you want to do deals with, and not because you have to balance this like weird relationship where you're friendly but business." And she was like, honestly, throw all that away and just work with people or continue to build relationships with people that you fundamentally see yourself wanting to be with long term, right? Um, someone, we make it like weird and icky to like cross pollinate personal and work. I think that's just like another construct that keeps us from generating more wealth and creating better systems for ourselves as women. Instead, my co-founder is my life partner. We're getting married in October. My
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. My chief of staff is, my dear friend. We're the godparents to her son, and so auntie and uncle over here. That level of closeness is actually what I look for in, my mentors. Like I'm inviting them to my wedding. I hope they come. That's I want us to feel like you can blend that. So I would say to be able to keep the momentum going is like fundamentally ingrain people into your life who you actually gain so much from in your interactions, right? Because I think of it less like I remember when one of my publications early in my career, the publisher was like, ask the, she was like telling me to ask like the only other woman in the room to be my mentor. And I was just so young. I was like, I don't know how to do that. That's weird. Do I just go up to someone and be like, be my mentor? Literally, I I've never asked any of the women who are my mentors right now to be my mentor. They literally just do it because I constantly showed up. I showed up, right? I see they have a speaking engagement. I showed up. I sat
Mm,
and I watched and I listened to them and I made sure to say hi at the end. I see them, they have a post on LinkedIn. I engage. Hi, so inspired by you and your work. Connect, engage, like start to build a real relationship with people by being yourself, by engaging with them. That's how you create real relationships. That's how you create mentorship. Like, I can't believe the women that I've like admired for so much of my career are now women who I like have brunch with and go to their house for dinner and host events with. Um, but that happened because I put in the work. I put in the work to truly be a friend and a mentee mentor to them. So I think that's I think the best advice around mentorship is if you want to be a mentor or you want to be a mentee, I think they're a little bit more interchangeable now.
yeah,
Um, but just continue to build a relationship with the women in your lives who really, really fill that fill that cup and make that soul scream. And you know, and like Michelle said in the comments, right, who make you feel like it is your time to shine. Because it
yeah,
is. And they should make you feel that way.
agree. I feel like the common theme that we're like focusing on is just like taking up space and not being scared to fill the room, right?
Yes. Yes. And do it together. Doing it together is huge. Commune.
I
Yes.
agree. I agree.
Yes.
So another thing that you tackle in your book, and I'm just gonna like bring it up because I feel like I haven't picked it up yet, but again, I feel
Hmm.
like I've been carrying around, excuse me, like this literally is like my Bible. I'm like walking in the kitchen, I'm walking around the
Aw.
living room.
Oh my
So
God.
good.
Thank you.
But the one thing you talk about health and finance intersecting. And in a few months ago, I had worked on a podcast with Christina Wise, and her company is called Wealthy Wealthy. And this really came to mind when you were talking about it because it's the importance of integrating finance and wealth together. Would you say that this connection is happening increasingly more within the fintech industry, or do you feel like the wellness and how we take care of ourselves and also the technology that we use are very separate still?
Mm. There's a section of the book called financial health is health, right?
Yeah.
And that where I talked to a number of women who are building in this space. I think from a commercial business standpoint, there is some hardship there in terms of finding the the fit or making it like scalable or whatever. A lot of the workarounds there that you'll learn in the book is folks going a bit more B2B, integrating into an employer, working directly with healthcare, providers or that type of thing. Um, so that's one side of it is like that business side. I think from an industry side, you know, I I tackle the story of Sheila Lirio Marcello, who's a hero of mine as the first Asian American woman to take a company public, the seventh in history ever to do it. Um, a lot of people would tell me that what she does isn't really fintech, right? I don't have such a narrow mind for what fintech is or what it is capable of. I think that if you're leveraging technology to open up access to the economy to a subset of people who needed and that injects more wealth into our economy and for those people, then that is fintech. And so someone like Sheila, who is at the intersection of childcare and caregiving, right? Care and her great kind of quote in there of care is the work that makes all of the work possible.
Yep.
For us as an industry to fundamentally ignore that is odd, especially when the mass amounts of money that it's capable of bringing into our global GDP. So, all to say that I think from a business side that there's still like folks are very interested. I've heard a lot about like healthcare and wellness is getting more popular in terms of where investors are very interested in. I think that unfortunately sometimes like investors they just want something that's super scalable fast, and they just might need to be a bit more patient than that and uh, work to figure out how that intersection works a bit. But I think there's a startup in there called Aura Finance, and I cover their founders, Kelsey Willock Jones, and I met her so early when we were both just starting out. And I think to tie in behavioral finance with wealth management is a ridiculous, massive market opportunity because the wellness space is like how many $1 trillion worth, and then you tie that into a fintech space that it's how many trillions of dollars worth, right? It's like it's a no-brainer that more people want to leverage their finances as a way to make them feel healthier, as a way to make them feel happier. Um, now, exactly. I see you, Linda. We, the industry, need to really focus on the ROI for investors. They're not seeing it yet, but soon. There, she wrapped up what I was saying. Exactly.
Perfect.
We're, yes, Linda. Like we just need to get to that place, but at least I think from a financial education standpoint, we're getting there a bit better in terms of the fintech companies that are out there, getting finance and financial education in the hands of more kids and more diverse demographics. But when it comes to like wellness itself, that's we're like, and health and healthcare and childcare, we're still like kind of chugging along. But we should keep going. It's a massive opportunity. It's ridiculous.
No,
Someone's
so
we're all Yeah, we're all gonna strike gold there.
No, agreed. So now we know our business plan. Nicole, you and I are going to go in the business after this, and we're going to create this like platform app about wellness and finance,
Yes.
and that's it.
Right,
uh,
exactly, exactly. Well, we'll have to work with Aura Finance, you know. They can bring us on.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. So we talked about this a little bit, but wanted to just kind of circle back to it because I feel like it is, again, timely. Some of the things that I was reading in your book brought me into a space where, yes, it's like I'm being seen, but like, how can I in my everyday life ensure that I'm
Mm,
safe, right, and protected? And so, with all the attacks on DEI, diversity and inclusion, knowing that the way that it's being portrayed in the media is actually very false and incorrect, how can we, within the technology development space, wealth management space, continue to ensure that minorities and women are seen and protected?
mm. Keep going. Keep going, keep building, do what you need to do to make yourself feel safe. Keep your community close, keep your family close, keep your loved ones close. That's the kind of things that make me feel safe. Um, Continuing to enjoy my life. There's a section of the book called You Can't Wait to Have Fun. A great lesson I've learned as an entrepreneur who has a hard time making sure I have fun in the process. Um, that's how you keep going. You know, that's how it happens. Um, Obviously not you it's important to pay attention to what's going on, right? We're not bowing out, right? The what I said earlier about like having friends and family and people I know who are like, I'm done. Um, that's cool. I don't know. I think you got to stay awake. I think you got to pay attention. I've made it my job to pay attention, to help others sort through the noise. And I think it's important to pay attention, but don't get lost in the sauce and don't get too bogged down in the noise that's going on because that's exactly what they want. So they want you to give up. They want you to stop. They want you to be so fatigued that you're scared to use the words DEI, you know, and it's um I almost like said the F word, but that's like what I want to, I'm just like F it,
Yeah.
like screw them. You know, it's um now there are multiple levers of privilege that come with that, right? I for one am a bit have a place, I'm in a place where I can kind of do that. I have to think of my safety too. So that's like the balance. And I like I said, I think to for the safety purposes is keeping yourself surrounded, keeping yourself close with people that make you feel safe and protected is important because you start to lose yourself and you start to lose your safety and you stop being consistent and you stop fighting when you start to move in silos. That's really where it becomes more dangerous. So, um, yeah, that's why I keep a mean and lean team around me. I keep the women in my orbit close. I make sure I'm catching up with them regularly. I keep my relationships going the best I can. Um,
the
that's
being the
that's
being an
yeah.
adult relationship part is like so hard, like
It is
maintaining that.
hard.
Yeah.
It is hard. It is hard, but it's really the only thing, and having each other's backs. Like if there's one thing that we could take from the madness of the world is that the other side, if you will, they unequivocally, the bros of the world, they unequivocally have each other's backs. It doesn't
Yes.
matter. And for them, it's like, of course that can be used for good and bad. We can use it for good, right? I have like there's like a running joke that I'm like a job fairy. If you need a reference, if you need someone to write something, to pick up a phone and talk to some recruiter, I will do it. I barely care if we've really worked together. We'll figure it out. Like I'll say whatever. Let's go. Like I will do whatever it takes to get you that job, to get you that opportunity. Why not? It's that to yeah, like but abundance begets abundance.
I,
That's the yeah, that's how you do it. And that's how you stay safe and all that good stuff in the process and keep going.
you're magnificent. I'm just gonna say that as
Oh,
I
thank you.
launch the last polling question. How do you see the rise of women in fintech impacting the future of financial services? Sending this to the audience now, giving you a moment to answer. And while they do, we're coming to the top of the hour, but one of the things that we mentioned is that you have your upcoming summit, but also what's next? What's coming up? I feel like one person messaged about wanting to have
Yeah.
you on a book club, so we'll definitely want to follow up with that. But what else can we expect from you, Nicole, in the next year?
Yeah, like I said, larger summits. I'm looking to really grow and expand the work that we're doing here at Fintech is Femme so that it reaches more people. So I would say if you're looking for a way to help, it word of mouth, spreading the word of Fintech is Femme, spreading the word of Fintech Feminist, the book, posting an Amazon review if you loved her, always helps. Just getting more eyeballs and more reach because I know that there's such a larger, even though I have a sizable audience, I know that there's such
Yeah.
a larger audience out there that needs this work and wants to see this work. And every day, sometimes I'll get a new message from someone that's like, I can't believe I'm just seeing you now. And I'm like, me too. I've been posting on the internet for long enough, but it's a great big world out there. So, that I hope to go on another book tour this year. That is something that I'm manifesting and working towards. So if that is something, if you want to bring FinTech Feminist to your office, to somewhere, happy to help make that happen. You can always just reach out to me or through my website fintechisfem.co directly for that. um yeah, I've got a new podcast coming out actually. uh Scoop here, I haven't announced it yet, but it's called Fintech Mavericks. So
Oh, I
so
love
stay
that.
tuned. Yeah, stay tuned for that, all about how profit meets purpose, and so you'll really like it actually. But yeah, just growing, expanding, hopefully more book tours, more podcasts, more content. I hope to just keep growing this audience and growing this community so that we can create the new systems and patterns, create the safety, and also indulge in the risk of growing and becoming even greater than we already are.
Better tomorrow for sure. So just going to
Yeah.
share the results of this. 71% of us believe increased collaboration, leadership, and diversity, which again, if you haven't, this book it is literally dissecting the importance of diverse leadership amongst women and minorities in this space. And I just want to say thank you so much, Nicole, for joining us
Oh,
today.
thank you.
It has been an absolute pleasure to just talk with you and learn more, and also just to have this book. Again, it ignites the passion that women drive, the unique qualities that all women have in any field that we're in, regardless if it's finance or even manual labor or education, whatever it might be. Women are the future. And so to close us out today, I just want to say don't forget to subscribe to Nicole via LinkedIn, to check out Fintech is
Oh,
Femme, to read this book. This is your homework for everyone who's here today is to read this book, share, tell a friend. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
thank you so much for having me, Ashley and Tina, and everyone behind the scenes. And thank you for asking such wonderful and thoughtful questions. It's so cool when I'm on the other side of an interview and this happens. So, and I'm so happy you enjoyed the book.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day,
Yeah.
everyone, and see you soon.
Bye.